Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Optimized Ecommerce Podcast. I'm Tanner Larsson, your host for this episode. And I keep saying that, but I'm pretty much the only host. I mean, sometimes Matt does some stuff, but I'm pretty much the host. So I guess I can stop saying that in these episodes. But anyway, today we're going to cover some pretty cool stuff. We're going to talk about post-purchase email surveys to customers that have purchased, and then how to use customer feedback to improve your website, improve your store, your conversions, your money, and basically all that kind of cool stuff. And to deliver that material, we've got a returning guest, Haley Spindler. She was, but she is one of the leading revenue optimization experts at Build, Grow, Scale. She also is the pioneer of our BGS internship program that trains interns into ROs. And she's designed that entire program and runs that basically without any kind of help from us. She's just that awesome. And she also works on stores and does the revenue optimization process on our amplified partner stores. So she's super uniquely qualified to teach this. And if you did not yet, it would be beneficial to go back and listen to her first episode, which was episode 14. And it talked about the hierarchy of conversions and how you need to approach your website structure because and what to optimize first, so to speak, because it will tie into how do you use the post-purchase stuff and the customer feedback and know what hierarchy function you're actually looking at when you're dealing with those issues that you're going to be learning about from your customers. That was a lot of words, but it does make sense if you listen to it again. All right. Okay. So Haley, thanks for joining us again today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. Okay. So they know who you are. They know what you do. You're a rock star. Let's just go ahead and dive into it. So first and foremost, why do you need to survey your customers and your audience?
Yeah, so when you're surveying your customers or your audience, you're getting, valuable feedback straight from them, from the horse's mouth. So if you ask a certain question and it's worded correctly, you can get feedback that you can implement in your store that sometimes is more valuable than just observations made with quantitative data.
Okay, so now in terms of there's obviously different kinds of surveys, different kinds of things out there. What are the different types of surveys specifically to e-commerce that we leverage? I mean, obviously there's a gazillion types of surveys, but specific to what we do.
Yeah, so the two most, I'd say, abundantly used are going to be this post-purchase survey email that I want to talk about. And then you can also leverage some on-site surveys or polls. So basically they show up on your website and those can be valuable, although sometimes a little tricky to get, people to respond because they're shopping. They don't want to be responding to your surveys. So that's why the post-purchase one is, my go-to.
Gotcha. So now with that, the on-site surveys, those can be both pre and post purchase, right? They can happen before the checkout. They can also be fired on the thank you page. Obviously on the thank you page is a little bit better because they've completed the purchase. However, sometimes we want to run pre-purchase surveys, but you have to be careful. Can you talk about why you need to be careful about how you can run those real quick?
So you get two types of different feedback when you run pre and post purchase. So pre-purchase, you might even be getting feedback from unqualified people. Mm-hmm. So people who aren't necessarily your buyers, who maybe have just shown up because they accidentally liked a Facebook page or, accidentally Googled something they didn't really mean to, anything like that. Mm-hmm. So they might not necessarily be your true audience. And if you ask a question like, hey, why are you not buying from us? They might answer price. And price is never the problem. It's usually just, people's persuasion elements on the page are the problem. So when you run a post-purchase survey, whether it's email or on-site, it's qualified. They're people who have been through your entire structure or the whole, what is that word I'm looking for? Stages of the website. So they've seen everything, they know everything, and because they've purchased, that they're qualified to even fill out your survey. And that's not to say that the people who didn't purchase you aren't, valuable at all. They do. There is some value to that, but without a shadow of a doubt that those people who have purchased from you, they're qualified.
And then the other aspect would be that post-purchase or pre-purchase surveys could actually interrupt the buyer's journey and cause conversion reduction, right? Like it could actually distract them from buying. So you may have actually taken someone who was a buyer, pissed them off and they didn't buy, or just confused them.
Well, that's true. That's entirely true. So if you like, let's say you have one on the product page and it pops up and, now it's covered the add to cart button. I'll sometimes ask, hey, what's stopping you from completing a purchase with us today? And they'll be like, oh, this stupid survey. This popped up and now I'm not going to buy from you guys. So that's true. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to that. So obviously we believe that the best data is going to be from post-purchase, but is there any other reasons you want to talk about why post-purchase surveys are better than a pre-purchase, or did we kind of cover that enough?
No, we cover that. I would say that post-purchase has the most qualified customer.
Okay.
Yep.
And then this is the big one, because this is the one where everybody gets stuck. Is like, great, I'm supposed to survey them.
Yeah.
What do I ask them? What am I supposed to, what do I want? What do I want from them? Right.
Yep. So obviously the most obvious questions to ask are anything that clarifies any data that you currently have. So if you have, I don't know, let's just say you've noticed your persuasion is not, 100%. Like, let's say that you're watching Lucky Orange videos or something, and people are just really searching for something in the product description. So you can ask, anything that would clarify that. But I would say that the most valuable types of questions you can ask are ones that give you some insight into people's objections. So what is stopping you from buying from us today? That's a big one, because then you'll get, all these answers back, the most obvious one is always going to be price, or maybe it's when will I receive my shipment? And that's a very easy thing to address. You can add like a shipping element. Hey, ships in 3 days, will arrive. Always make it customer centric. So your shipment will arrive to your doorstep in X days or on X day. Amazon does that, obviously. So anything that is going to highlight or give you a list of their objections, so that way you can kind of create or counter them. So if they say, this is my problem, you offer a solution. Problem, solution, problem, solution. Okay.
And with that, these questions are designed not necessarily to solve that customer specific issue, but solve future customer issues and try to get more people to convert, because they've already bought, obviously, but the data that they can give you can help pave the way for improved conversions and improved buyer journey, process for everybody else, right?
Yeah. And let's say you get, 100 responses back in the first week. When you're scoring that data, like turning it into a chart or something like that, you can visually see what percentage of, let's say 20% of them responded with shipping issues. They're not sure when it's going to be, they're not sure how much it's going to cost, or just for whatever reason, shipping is a problem for them. To focus your attention on shipping. Let's say 5% of them respond with, sizing issues. And maybe that's not the biggest, thing for you to tackle right out the gate. It would be shipping, because that's, more responses.
So let's dive into that a little bit. I know you guys you have a process for the interns, and like, okay, I've collected all this data. How do I categorize it? How do I figure out what it is, instead of just looking at a whole bunch of individual responses?
Yeah. So that's actually a lot easier than it sounds. Whenever I'm dealing with interns, they're super scared to start, analyzing data, because it sounds, super freaky. But the best way, everybody has their own way of doing it. The easiest way for me is I just open an Excel sheet. Whenever I have like a problem, let's say it's shipping, sizing, price, then I'll just put shipping, sizing, and price, have those 3 columns. And each time one of them responds with, whatever that is, I'll put like a 1. And then when I get to the bottom, let's say I've scored all 300 of them, I'll just, do the sum of that. And let's say there's 75 for shipping, 10 for sizing, and the remainder is, or those last 5, I think mental math is not my strong suit, is price. Then I would know which one to focus my immediate attention on. I think Casey creates some crazy pie chart because, he's wicked smart, but that's just not what I do. There's easier.
Involved,
Yeah.
right?
It doesn't have to be difficult. So that's how I do it. Yep. And then let's say
as you're simpler.
Yeah, if you're going through it too, and you started with, those three, and you notice that there's another issue, like something like, I don't know, like buttons, or they're not able to find the page you're looking for, then you could add that as you go. And then, after you get finished with that and you need to clean it up into, let's say you have 10 different categories, and you can condense those. Let's say it's shipping times and then shipping price. At the end, you can condense that just into shipping.
Correct.
So definitely, go through it a couple of times, see what's, needs to be condensed, and what could use your most immediate attention.
Okay. So with that, the categories, and you said like you have these categories. The categories are not just randomly generated. They're you're looking at your information. You're kind of picking out the common themes of what you're seeing at a glance to make your categories.
Yes.
And then you start inputting it into those categories, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, and as you read different categories, you'll notice, and you can just, create that category.
Yeah. So you guys, if you're on YouTube, you can obviously see that one of my dogs is running around in the background inspecting. Oh, because the landscapers are here. So apologies for that. And if you're not on YouTube, you can't see it. So no apologies needed there. If you're on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever. So anyway, all right. So now we know what questions to ask. We know how to analyze those questions in a bulk form to figure out what has priority and where most of the questions are falling. The biggest thing though is now that we've got those answers, we've categorized them, we've sorted them, we know what's our highest priority. How do we actually take that and improve our store?
Yeah. So again, not as difficult as it sounds. So now you have your chart of, objections that people are having. Now you just need to, or the problems that they're facing. Now you just need to generate a solution. So if the problem is shipping, which in a lot of times I've come across that, where shipping is just not as clear, especially in the age of drop shipping, where everybody's just feeling a little burnt out by, 30-day wait times and things like that. And in the age of Amazon, where they offer those, immediate, hey, this will be shipped to you in 2 days solutions, that's a big one. So I can start to hypothesize from here. This is where you start, maybe devising some testing solutions. So for example, shipping. If I'm noticing that shipping price is an issue, I could address that as early on in the product page, which is, proven to be some big needle movers for us, by just, maybe under the add to cart button saying, ships on X dates, or price is, X price. And that can just be, your baseline, whatever your basic shipping cost is, like let's say it's $5 ground shipping. And then let's say typically your fulfillment center is able to get things out in 3 days. You can set the code to say 3 days from today, and with this basic shipping price. So nothing too crazy, any developer, if you don't have one, anyone off Fiverr, Upwork can do that, super simple. But
so on that one, hang on, Haley.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, finish that answer to that question thing. I want to ask you a question
so then
about that.
The answer to the basic question of, how do I actually implement something? It's, hypothesizing, testing solutions. Obviously, always test these things, but it's problem solution. Now you just need to, hey, how can I best answer or best solve this issue for my customer? Okay.
So where I interrupted you, I wanted to go back to was specifically with the shipping aspect, like shipping time is a question, shipping thing, price. Obviously, either in the cart or at checkout, wherever you're doing it, you could have estimated shipping shown in the cart, but obviously in the checkout is where it actually shows it.
Yep.
When what you're talking about by adding it to the product page earlier up on the buyer's journey while they're still browsing, you're not so much solving the problem as making them aware of it earlier so that it's not a surprise when they get to the checkout, correct?
Yeah. So it's not necessarily solving a problem because
it may not be a problem.
There was never truly a problem. Your shipping rate may have always been $5. Shipping time may have always been, 3 days from today, but they're just not aware. So to answer that question, the more times you can put something on a page that is of that importance, and you'll know if it's important because it'll, keep coming up from your customers, whether that's shipping, sizing, whatever it is for you. It'll continue to come up. And so whenever you see that that's happening, the more times and the more places that you can address that, the clearer it's going to be for people, because not everybody's going to make it maybe to your checkout or to your cart page, wherever you may have addressed it already, because if that is already an issue for them, they don't want to keep going that far. So if sizing is an issue for people, they're just not going, maybe they're not scrolling down on the page far enough to see the size guide. So if you can offer it to them a little above the folds maybe, or in places that you're noticing in maybe your heat maps where people are clicking a lot or scrolling a lot, there's, those high trafficked areas of your site, it's always better to offer these things multiple times.
It's a good point, because it's so clarity, we talk about that a lot, right? That's like the biggest thing in RO is clarity on a site. But it's clarity to a store owner and clarity to a browser or a visitor are very, very different. Your clarity as a store owner, for those of you guys listening, is actually not clarity. It's just the fact that you built it and you know where everything is and you know how it functions because you set it up. Where clarity is when a stranger comes to your site and they can use it intuitively and not need you standing over their shoulder explaining, oh yeah, now you need to click here and then, hold your breath and count to 3 and then push that button. You can't have those aspects. That's not a clear site. That's a site that requires you behind their back. So a lot of the stuff that you're getting from the post-purchase email stuff that Haley's talking about is relating to how do you make it more clear? And as Haley just said, sometimes having something multiple times on the site, multiple times on the page. I know in one of our Amplify partner brands, they sell pet products. And one of the things with different sizing for different types of size of dogs, there's a sizing guide. That sizing guide on the product page alone, there's a wizard that like guides you through it. There's a sizing guide link. There's an embedded sizing guide image, and then another embedded sizing guide image, all in the same product page. Why? Because every time they figured out a spot to add it where it made sense, add to carts went up, clarity went up, and they actually made a lot more money. So just because you have that little sizing guide link or a sizing guide embedded down and below doesn't mean that's enough. And we're also, obviously, we're just talking about sizing here, but this applies to everything, right?
Yeah. And then you said a key phrase I want to highlight, where it made sense. If you find an issue, like let's say sizing, don't start putting wizards everywhere, or links or size guides or whatever that is. I don't want to, go to the EI group and, somebody say, hey, Haley, can you check out my website for me? And I do. And then there's just size guides all over the place. That's not what I want to see. It's where it makes sense. And that's what, your heat maps can help with a little bit, to a degree, because, just because somebody is, or something on your website is getting a lot of clicks, like let's say on the homepage, you're not necessarily going to just put use some.
You're not going to put a sizing wizard on your homepage, especially if you have more than one product.
Exactly. Use some discretion, a little bit of, smartness, and put it where it makes sense. And always test everything too, because maybe you've added something, an element, let's say a size guide or a wizard, and it hurts, which can happen. And that doesn't mean that your audience didn't want that. It means maybe it's not the right iteration of that. Maybe you have an older audience, they can't understand widgets. Your audience is not as tech savvy as you are.
And we've had that happen quite a few times, right? We designed this awesome wizard, and a wizard guide is nothing more than a widget or a little app on the site that basically they either fill in some information or click a few buttons and out it spits out the recommendation for a size or a color or a style or some kind of variant of the product that they don't have to come up with the answer themselves. But when we've designed some amazing, really, really cool widget/wizards that haven't worked at all. Yeah.
It's devastating because there's so many dev hours and everything that goes into it, and then it doesn't work. But it's good to know that it doesn't work. Otherwise you have something that
correct.
Is hurting.
And you can iterate on it. You can just keep moving, and eventually something will work. But it doesn't always have. Just because we've said wizard and we're talking about sizing guides does not mean I don't have a wizard. I better have one. a lot of the times it's not necessary, but it is worth testing if you have the skill set to have that developed. So anyway, that's sizing guides. Now, one other thing that we weren't actually like going to talk about, but I want to bring up is a lot of times we have trouble getting customers to respond to the post-purchase survey email.
Yes.
So I don't know if it was you or Alex, or I know Alex was big about it, but Alex is one of our other revenue optimization experts. He's been on the podcast a few times, but there's a process that we use, which I'll let Haley kind of talk about now, to actually get people to not only give us feedback, but also give us more money.
Yep. So yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think to talk about that. Incentives. People don't want to do anything for free. I can't say I blame them, but unfortunately, if you just email them a survey, they're going to go, straight to trash. So if you can offer something that's, at least a little bit incentivizing, not just 10% off, although it works better than free. If you offer a coupon of $10, $15, depending on what your margin can handle, the response rate it's crazy. And then the repeat customer rate actually goes up, because those people may not have wanted to buy from you again, but then they say, oh, well, yeah, I have $15 to spend, because it's not, the way the mind works isn't like, they gave me a coupon. They literally think of it as, I have $15 to spend with this company.
We're talking about like store credit dollars, basically, right?
Yeah. So that repeat customer rate, it goes up, and then you actually get responses too. I think with a kids clothing company that I used to work with a client of BGS, 300 responses in I think 2 weeks. I just kind of let it run, kind of forgot about it, went to check on it, and I was like, oh my goodness, 300 responses. That's crazy, because that's not, what usually happens. Usually you have to leave it running for like, gosh, at least a month, 2 months before you even broke the 100, the 100-person mark. And if you're going to do on-site surveys or polls, I found that same methodology actually works here as well. So if you say, your main headline is, hey, answer this question, or these 2 questions, be up front for, X incentive, let's say it's 10% off. And then you put the sub headline as the question, that actually really helps. I left 1 week, my headphones just died. In 1 week of my survey running on site, over, I think, 200 responses, which is crazy, for just a small 10% off. Yep. So those incentives really, really work.
Yeah, and there's a bit of psychology there too that you can play into when it comes to the store credit. Just like we use when we set a free shipping threshold, we always set the free shipping threshold to about 20% over the store's AOV. And then as the AOV increases, we increase the free shipping threshold. Same thing goes here. If your, products are, $30 or $40, giving someone 15 or $20 store credit means they have to buy something over that, right? So you always want to structure your store credit price higher, and it incentivizes it. And Haley's right. They do think of store credit as dollars. Like, I have to spend this or it will, it's like Kohl's Cash. Anybody who shops at Kohl's gets all those little Kohl's Cash dollars, and they literally, my wife does it. She's like, oh my God, I have to go spend this. I'm like, it's a coupon. She's like, no. This is Kohl's Cash. It's as good as money. I go, oh, really? Go spend that without any additional money. Oh, well, that doesn't work that way. You have to add money to it. I'm like, see, but that's just how they, it works. It's the brain is conditioned to do that. So if you do that with your post-purchase, not only can you collect some great data, you can also get them to buy. The other interesting piece about store credit and cash rebate type stuff is that when it's almost like you did something nice for them, so they feel obligated to do something nice for you, even though they actually helped you more. They think that, oh, well, I spent, you gave me $20, the product is 40, I better spend at least 60. And it's just this irrational subconscious process that people who have stored cash tend to spend, 30 to 40% more on their purchase using that store cash than they would have if they just bought with their own money. So a lot of really cool stuff can come out of that and we call it a gift card basically. But that's the process. And it's obviously, like Haley said, she got, on one store, 300 plus responses in a few days. Obviously they were running significant traffic. That matters. If you don't have traffic, you're not going to get responses no matter what you do. But even if your pre-purchase surveys, like Haley, I mean, I'm assuming this is obviously a boon and we track this, but I don't actually know the answer. Even if the pre-purchase responses aren't that awesome, but if people are opting in still to do that and getting the coupon, if they're using the coupon, it's still a win.
Yeah. So with a pet site that I currently, BGSs that I currently work with, right now we're running a pre-purchase survey on site, and it's offering people 10% off. And it kind of sucks because a lot of times, I mean, I just posted this in our group chat of, hey, my question is, what questions do you have that you can't find answers to? And somebody literally responded, and a few people did, I don't have any questions, but I still want 10% off. I don't care. If you want that 10% off, if that's what's going to push you over the edge to buy from us,
So be it.
our margins can handle your 10% off, take it. It's not, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily increasing conversion rate. That's not a conversion, that's a hack. That's not, a best practice, or, you're not actually, so don't think that you're increasing conversions. You shouldn't just let a poll run. But it doesn't hurt, you're not necessarily, it's two birds with one stone. You could be getting valuable feedback while incentivizing others who may not have purchased from you to begin with.
Absolutely. And that you actually just mentioned something that I want to touch on. Didn't even think about it until you said it, but that is duration of polls and how frequently to run them, whether they're, the survey email can obviously be thrown as an autoresponder for every new customer purchase. That's easy to do with Klaviyo or whatever, but on-site polls, whether they're thank you page polls, obviously we have different rules. Can you talk a little bit about frequency and duration, as well as why we don't leave them on all the time?
Yeah, so you definitely don't want your audience to be ticked off with you, for lack of a better word. Think of all the times that you've gone to a website and you've got a pop-up, even just one, but think of all the times you've gone and there have been 3 or 4 pop-ups. Let's say you have Wheelio, you have this survey, maybe a sale is going on, and now your customer was just hit with 3 pop-ups and they have to exit out of every single one of them. The first thing that anybody thinks of, I mean, in most people's cases, is that this is a scam site. I need to get off of this. So that's obviously not the impression you want to make on a customer. So if you have other things set up, to pop up when people first land on the page, definitely turn them off. I would also recommend that your surveys or polls aren't set to pop up immediately, maybe after they've been browsing a little bit. Like, let's say your question is, what questions do you have that you can't find answers to? If that is set to go off as soon as they land on that page, they probably don't have any questions yet. So, maybe it's set to go off on after they've hit 60 seconds after they've been on a product page. That's fine. Now, as frequency, I would, in my personal opinion, whatever your repeat customer rate is, let's say it's every 30 days or something like that, that's about, I wouldn't meddle with that. I don't want people coming to my site and every time that they're there being hit with a survey or a poll. That's extremely annoying. People aren't going to like you. They want to go through the buying purchase uninterrupted. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And then, the other piece, just to clarify, I mean, I know the answer, but I want to make sure we say it, is if you're running a survey, you don't run it on every page of the site. You pick one spot and run the survey at a time, right?
Yeah. So don't have your survey pop up on every single page. Like if I'm, starting on the homepage and I meander to the collections and I end up on the product page, I should not see that every single time. It should be one time per customer. If you have it set off to go on, whatever page they land on, that's fine. So it could show up on any one of those pages, but just one page per customer. And then also be strategic about where you place it, because the question highly depends on where you put it. For example, what questions do you have that you can't find answers to? It's probably not going to go on the homepage, although it could after a certain length of time, but it's probably best served a little further down the funnel. So that way people have time to kind of gather questions and, they've thought about what it is that they can't find.
And then the final piece of that would be one survey at a time. Don't try to run multiple, like a product page survey, a cart survey, a homepage survey. Just pick one. Right?
Yeah. And that's for the same reasoning of you don't want to annoy your customer. You don't want to, put a bad taste in anybody's mouth with your store. Now, if you wanted to ask multiple questions on a single survey, that's fine. I would say, post-purchase, no more than 8, but pre-purchase, no more than 2. That's that's the number that I would give, because people, they're not there. Think about it when we talk about marketing, we say people aren't on Facebook to buy. So they're probably not going to buy, from you from a single ad. When we talk about your website, a lot of times, no, I would say never. Nobody's there to answer surveys. So if you get lucky on that first question that somebody answers, they're probably not going to answer the second question. And then anything after 2, I would say, is when they start to get a little irritated and you get, short, trite answers back from people of just, this survey sucks. I don't want to be doing this, but, I want 10% off. So I'd say no more than 2.
That's great. So guys, this is very good stuff. Again, if you have not listened to Haley's other episode, please go back to episode 14, Hierarchy of Conversions. A lot of the stuff will tie together if you listen to those together. And right now, what you guys need to do is you need to hop over to, if you're on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. If you're on iTunes, subscribe there. And if you're on whichever one you're on, subscribe to both of them. Make sure you're on, because this is a video podcast. A lot of times we're sharing stuff on the screen that you're going to want to be able to see or refer back to. So make sure you're subscribed on both so you get notified when the new episodes are released. And also, please leave us a review if you enjoyed the episode so we know that you liked it and what we can do better in the future, right? With that, guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.